Hi gang, Andrew from Before the Storm here. I got some time this week, so I thought I'd show you guys how I'm using my Line6 Helix as my sort of complete audio interface for everything in my small home studio, and the way that I route between my DAW, my studio monitors, and my live amp and cab. So yeah, let's jump into it. Just so you can see, I've got my Helix on the floor down there, which is connected to my computer, and XLR's into there. One of my guitars over there. And then I've got a 1/4 out that just goes around the back of the room, some other guitars, into the amp here. So yeah, the whole room basically runs off the Helix, which is, yeah, wicked. So first thing is my routing. So the way I do this basically is I have a few outs happening. I've got 2 XLRs which go into my studio monitors. I've got a 1/4 out which goes into the effects return of my amp, so I just use it as like a power amp which goes into my cab. And then through the headphone port I've got a Y splitter, can see here, one of which goes to my camera when I do YouTube videos and stuff, and the other one goes to my actual headphones, and that's all controlled through the master volume knob. So my output settings are as follows. So my 1/4 out is set to instrument because it goes into the effects loop return of my amp. My XLR outputs is set to line because I've got Yamaha HS7s and they're line level speakers. My effects loop send and return, I'm actually planning to use as my click track. I haven't quite got that set up, so another day I'll go into that a bit more. USB 1 and 2 destination set to XLR because I don't want any of the sound from my DAW to go through to my live cabinet, and I'll explain why in a bit. Pretty much here everything is almost the same, like reamp source is the same. I do have my volume knob set to only control XLR, so that way it's like any sound from the computer I control just through the Helix itself. And then the headphones only monitor what's happening through XLRs. So depending on the patch I'm using, that could be a complete emulated tone or the complete mix if I'm not doing anything on here at all. But once again, I don't want to hear my live tone coming through my headphones because there's no cab simulation, so it sounds horrible. Digital level's all fine. And I have my sample rate set to 44.1 because that's what I record with, and I don't want any like sync issues or anything. I may go back to 48 Hertz if I eventually change DAWs, but at the moment I just set that at a global level for everything just so I don't come into any issues. Cool, so the DAW I use at the moment is Cakewalk. I've been using Cakewalk for many years, and was a paid Cakewalk user before Gibson went under as well. So that's been serving me well for a very long time, but I'm considering going over to Studio One soon. But anyway, that's not why we're here. So the way I record is I'll always have a DI track and a emulated track. I call it emulated track because if it's got any amp simulation or effects or anything on there, that's like the processed track. And there's a few reasons for always having a DI track. One, you can reamp, so that way, like if you don't like the tone that's burnt in from your main recording, you can always go back and reamp it, and the Helix is really good for reamping. And the other reason is tone dialing. So what I like to do is to dial in a tone, I like to do that free from actually playing live. So I'll loop a section and then play that back and then adjust the tone without me having to play. So I find that's a much better way of dialing in tone. So for example, let's take this section here. Cool. So that's the captured track from the Helix itself. So what I'll do now is I'll solo the DI track. And I'll route this to USB 3. So if I play this now, so here there's nothing coming out. So let's jump over to my amp and we'll get some audio from that. So for reamping and tone dialing, I'll generally use this workflow where I'll set my input to be USB 3 or USB 5. So at the moment it's set to USB 3 and 4. Then it goes through this stream here, and then for reamping I've got my impulse response split here. And then that goes back out to USB 1 and 2, which then gets captured in the DAW, which I'll show in a sec. But this main stream is my live tone. So you can see the output here is the 1/4 out, and that goes to my amp. The reason I find this so good in terms of flexibility of workflow is that I can now not only reamp my tone if I decide that I don't like that tone and I want to change it later on. I can do that through the Helix really easily. But I can tone dial free from the guitar very easily with the drums and everything mixed in. But I can also compare my mix track to my live tone. So I can ensure that basically any small adjustments that I make to get the sound better in the mix, if I wanted to, I could roll them back into my live tone because I can hear everything simultaneously and compare. So the goal of what I'm trying to do at the moment is making sure that anything that I release, for songs through Before the Storm is that what you hear is what you'll hear live. So I'm always comparing back to my live tone versus the recorded tone and trying to get that as close as possible so that when we do eventually go back to playing live, what you hear in the recording is hopefully what you'll hear when you see us play. So, and the Helix makes it really, really easy to do that. And the way I'm actually able to get this so close at the moment, like I'll just unmute both tracks. So that's coming from my amp. And that's coming through the mix, and I can actually play them both at the same time. And we'll just do that one more time like this. So the patch I'm actually using, I made my own impulse response captured from my cab. So that's the first step in making sure that everything sounds consistent, and what you hear is actually it's actually a digital version of my live rig. So I'm sort of starting from live and working my way backwards. But yeah, I hope you guys have found this sort of interesting, and hopefully it's helpful for your own setups. And if you've got any questions or comments, just leave them below and I'll do my best to get back to you. If you like these sorts of videos, maybe I can try and do more of them. Yeah, thanks for watching, and hopefully this helped, and I'll catch you guys later.